From JRE 2396 with Andrew Schultz, what if one ancient book could rewrite the entire story of humanity?
The Book of Enoch is nuts.
That's
I talked
the
to Wes
Giants
Huff about it.
That's the Giants
It's
one,
not
right?
just the Giants, it's aliens. It's about the Watchers who came down and mated with human beings. Bro, I'm reading it right now.
I know you are. I already know.
Bananas. She told me to read it. And she's like, you have to read this. It's nuts.
And what did Wes Huff say? Did he say there's a legitimacy?
It's 100% a legitimate text. It's legitimate religious text, but they decided not to include it because it's so nuts and because it goes against like what the writings of the Torah.
Right, right.
So, but it was a few rabbis. Just a few rabbis decided.
Like
if the Book of Enoch was included in the Bible, it changes the whole
Why would
story
the
of the
rabbis
human
decide
race.
what goes into the
back then
Christian?
they had that kind of power. They just decided that it doesn't get included in the canon. This is a long time ago.
But yeah, I mean, this is like around. Well, who decided the canonized Bible, right? This is like Constantine time, right?
Well, that's for the New Testament, right? And so with the Old Testament, you've got Wes Huff would be the guy to ask all these questions.
Oh, wait a minute. Enoch was included in the Old Testament.
Oh, it's old as fuck.
Oh, okay,
Not only is it old as fuck, when they found it, they also found a version of the Book of Isaiah. This is one of the things that Wes Huff told me that was really fascinating. They found a version of the Book of Isaiah that is verbatim the same as a version of the version of Isaiah that was 1,000 years later, which they thought was the original.
Unbelievable.
That's what's crazy. For 1,000 years, they maintained the exact same story verbatim, writing it down and passing it on. And the Book of Enoch's in there with that. And the Book of Enoch is bananas.
Yeah, I think we might need to do a little deep dive on the Book of Enoch.
The Book of Enoch, it says that these Watchers came down and mated with human beings and created a race of giants called the Nephilim who consumed and destroyed everything in front of them. Gee, that sounds like people. That sounds a lot like people.
Yeah.
If you got a bunch of little chimps and then you got these tall aliens and they make a fucking 7-foot man, a Viking, who's like chopping off heads and lighting villages on fire and has this unstoppable desire for conquest, that's humans. Well, the Nephilim sounds like humans.
Exactly. So they're not giants. We are the giants. And then what if the other folks...
They might have been giants. Like, it's hard to say.
But what if the other folks were the Neanderthals? Well, because there was a time where we're living together, right?
Right. Well, they were here before us, allegedly. Well, the question is like, where did humans come from? Yeah. This is the real question. There's a really interesting show on PBS right now called Human, where this lady goes on this journey of, it's like, she's, what is her degree in? Is she an anthropologist? I believe she's an anthropologist. But or maybe some sort of biologist, but she goes over the history of the human species. It's very interesting. The migration from across the Bering Land Bridge into North America, when the oldest people started coming here, how they came here. Fascinating stuff. But that's one of those things, like if you think ancient history is filled with horseshit, like ancient human history, like of the humans. That's the woman's name. I don't want to fuck up her name. Ella al-Shamahi. And it's on BBC and PBS. Really good show. I just started watching it. She's a paleontologist. Degree in genetics and taxonomy and biodiversity. But they just found recently a human skull that pushes the date of humans back another 500,000 years.
Yeah.
So it's like all they know is what they find in the fossil record, and there's so little fossil record. And then they keep finding new things. Like they just found Denisovans in like 2010. They're like, whoa,
what is that?
What's this? Total new branch of the human tree.
It's called
Denisovans.
Denisovans.
Yeah, they found like a bunch of teeth, I think, in Asia, and they're like, what the fuck is this? And then or maybe it was Russia. So there's that. There's the one that they found in China, the big head people.
That's the one I saw.
Real recent. That's real recent. I forget what that one's called. We've done this a million times, but I always forget. But so they're always finding these new versions of humans. So how many of them really were there? But if there's a bunch of science experiments, if aliens are coming down and like, let's try them where they're short, really powerful, and they only eat meat. And that's Neanderthals. Like, stop. This one's not a good design. This is not a good design. We need them a little more frail so they invent things. Because the brutes don't invent anything.
Yeah, more frontal cortex.
Yeah, the Neanderthals had bigger brains than us. That's what's interesting.
So then what part of our brain was specifically different?
See, we have a very our idea of them is that they were dumb and they couldn't talk and that they were brutes. But it doesn't seem like that's true. In fact, it seems like they had art, they definitely had tools, and they had language. And they might have been as smart as us. They were just different. And maybe us being a little weaker is what made us smarter. You know?
Or made us work collectively.
Maybe we're a little more alien, just a touch.
Right.
There's a little too much salt in that stew. Let's add a touch more of us. And, you know, it seems like the hairy, 5'7", 200-pound fucking savages with big eyes that might be able to see at night, because it looks like they might have had night vision. They have huge eyeballs, man.
Right.
The Neanderthal eye socket's way bigger than ours. Their skull's thicker. Their bones are more dense. They might have had night vision, like a dog. You know how dogs, their eyes glow when the headlights hit them? They might have had that same ability.
I mean, yeah, I don't know why.
That design's too sketchy.
It's just not
They
working.
can see at night,
Yeah.
and then they go hunting other people. This is too much.
But then we hunted them.
Maybe. We might have just fucked them.
I also heard we fucked them.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
you
we
had that
hunted them and
joke,
we
right?
fucked
You're
them.
like, I got a little bit of... Yeah.
One more time with the monkey.
But in terms of, like, the stories, like... All right, you know when a comic gets off stage and, like, they think they killed, but they bombed?
Right.
Like, there could be people telling those stories in the books.
There could be.
Like, meaning what their rendition of what happened is in the book, and that is what they truly believed happened. They might not even be delusional. They are delusional, but, like, that's what they saw, and that's what happened to them.
And history is always written by the winners.
Exactly.
Yeah. My version of the Bible story back in the day, I used to have this bit about Noah's Ark. I was like, the problem with the Bible is people are full of shit, and that story sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it's that simple. It's
Yeah.
like people lie all the time. I've never met any politician or any person who's in charge of anything that's, like, really important that I would say never lies. So if you're back then where there's zero accountability, zero video, zero anything, they can't even write.
Well, that's where the cross-referencing makes sense, right? It's like that's when you got a bunch of different people saying the same thing or similar things. You start to go, okay, maybe this did happen.
From JRE 2365, Joe Rogan and Anna Paulina Luna explore the Book of Enoch and why some believe it changes everything.
Now, to say that we were, and I've heard some wild theories, like people think that, humanity was seeded by UFOs, and that's I don't agree with that theory. I'm going to address it because
it's a fun one.
It's an interesting theory.
If you found out it was true, would you tell everybody?
I mean, I'd be transparent about it, but I just don't personally believe it.
But would you believe it if you found out that was the information that the government had?
Well, I'd put it out there because that's what I'm
right. But
supposed to
what
do.
would that do for your belief system?
That would suck.
But would it suck, really? But maybe that's what's confusing about the Bible. Maybe what's confusing is that it was an oral tradition for hundreds, if not 1,000 years before it was ever written down, right?
Well, I think that it depends on what book you're talking about, right? So, like,
but I
if you have
mean, the
books
Old
written by
Testament,
prophets.
if you go back to the oldest works of the Bible, weren't most of those stories handed down generation after generation and then eventually written down?
Written into text. Well, some of them are written by prophets, but I mean, Enoch is apparently supposed to predate even the time of Genesis and talk.
The nuttiest one is Ezekiel.
I'm telling you, Enoch is even crazier than Ezekiel.
Oh, I've read. I just don't. Did you find anything about whether or not Enoch is controversial?
You can look up the 4th century.
It was discluded as, I guess, since the 5th century. It wasn't in canon.
5th century.
And why did it get discluded?
It says the Jewish scribes or the priests didn't believe, the rabbis didn't believe it was canon.
Huh.
So it's regarded as scripture.
But what's interesting is that even if that's the case, though, you have the Ethiopian Orthodox Church that actually there's Ethiopian Jews, and that's considered the most pure form of the Bible. So, like, you actually have a division of, like, the Ethiopian Jewish class that actually recognized Enoch.
How weird is it that some rabbis 500 years ago made a call?
But that's what I'm saying is, like, you
1,500
can't
years ago,
though discredit it because
that's kind of weird.
But you can't discredit it because, again, like when you have people removing books, I think Look, and I'm not telling people what to believe. I'm just saying you should take a look at it. And so it's interesting because then you have, the evolution of what the King James Bible is. We all know that story. He wanted to get remarried. They rewrote it. But you even have the Catholic Bible that has, it's what happened.
Right.
And you have the Catholic Bible that had books that were taken out. And then we have the King James. So I'm not saying that, if you read the King James, you're not getting... you don't have access to God. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that there's a bigger picture here that we need to discuss. And I think
there's always a problem when people get involved. And when people get involved in making decisions that this could be real and this could not be. The problem is, like, all these years later, you're dealing with the repercussions of that. Like, imagine a world in which if Enoch was left in the Bible and people were like, wait, what happened? Like, explain the nuttiness of the Book of Enoch to people.
Well, it's okay. So if you read it, it talks about the fall of angels, thus creating really the precursor of civilization that led to the first flood. I think that when you even go into potentially the technology that was given to mankind by these angels, it talks about the hidden beliefs and theories in astronomy, etc., metalworkings, all of it. But it really does explain, you were talking about earlier how you have a lot of these religions around the world that kind of say the same thing. This is kind of the OG text that leads to those stories that we're hearing from many religions around the world. To talk about angels mixing with mankind and then seeding a super essentially race of humans that essentially were responsible for basically damning mankind to the flood. I mean, you hear about stuff in Greek and Roman mythology, people who had these super crazy powers. And you talk about it out loud and it sounds crazy, but that's what the book says. And then the fact that it was taken out and then it's poo-pooed, yet you have one of the oldest religions in the world via the Ethiopians that actually still have it. You have, the Catholic Church that has books that are missing out of the King James Version. I'm just saying that, when you read it, you should read it and decide for yourself. Don't listen to what I'm saying. Don't listen to what you're saying, but truly give it a chance and see what you have to say. And then, you're going back to this whole concept of if you have this information pertaining to UAPs, whatever they might be, the origins. I mean, if you have a understanding of what Enoch was talking about, kind of makes sense.
Well, I go back to my thoughts on all this stuff. It's like very few people could even read back then. Very few people could write, right? So you're not going to write. You're probably going to try to capture a truth. You're probably not writing necessarily to deceive people and make up a story. So the question is, with all this stuff, is like, what was the original truth that they were trying to write down, and how much of it is getting distorted by translations from ancient Hebrew to Latin to Greek,
Aramaic to English.
Like how much of it?
And there's this thing.
Is it possible to even understand what they're saying without understanding the language? And my friend Rick Strassman, he's a very fascinating guy, but brilliant guy. One of the things that he did is he taught himself ancient Hebrew so he could read the Bible in ancient Hebrew. It took him 16 years.
Wow.
But he did it because, like, I want to know it in that language.
That's smart, because there's always an aspect of translation where you lose certain implications.
If you're playing the telephone game, you want to be second. You don't want to be 15th.
Exactly.
Right? And whoever was writing it down the earliest, that's probably, you're closer to their depictions of what that truth is than after King James starts fucking around with it. And all these
Want
other
a new
people,
wife, got to remove certain stuff.
All these new people start getting involved. But boy, when you go to the really old stuff, the really old stuff is very strange. I'm telling you, the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible, I actually had a staffer that went to Ethiopia. She was on a church trip, and she actually brought me back a copy, and she's like, you can translate it via Google Translation, so kudos to modern day technology. So I have it in my office. And actually, when I did my swearing in, I actually did my swearing in on the Ethiopian Orthodox Bible. Wow.
It's cool. It's direct translation.
That's kind of crazy.
I think we're probably going to be responsible for, like, the Book of Enoch sales probably increasing on Amazon.
Well, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it. I need to read it now.
JRE number 2231. Archaeologists found hundreds of mysterious pillars, then suddenly slowed the excavation.
I'm in the middle of the audiobook of the Book of Enoch, and it's one of the wildest things I've ever listened to in my life.
It's weird.
Oh my God, it's so weird. When you realize that a lot of the people in the Book of Enoch are also in the Bible, and that it's one of the craziest stories. It's one of the craziest origin stories ever, that angels came down and bred with humans, and made giants.
Right.
The giants destroyed the earth. Like, what is this story?
It's mostly in the Hebrew Bible. It's the story of what led to the flood. Yeah, the sons of Elohim.
How do you interpret the Watchers? What do you think that could be?
I think, they're not mentioned in the Hebrew Bible. They are mentioned in the Book of Enoch. That's a crazy book, isn't it?
It's crazy.
Yeah, I started reading it, and I said to my wife, I can't handle this. It's too much.
It's because if that was left in the Bible, if they decided that that was like a part of the canon, that would change everything.
Well, in what way?
It's the craziest story ever. That these things came down and bred with humans and created giants, and the giants destroyed and consumed everything.
Yeah, those giants.
And consumed each other. Like,
yeah, bloodshed.
What kind of kooky story is this? Like, what is this?
Well, it's the reason for the flood,
right.
And all that. Yeah. Things just got so bad, God said, I changed my mind. And he brings the flood.
When you hear about these biblical depictions of fantastic events, how many of them are you attributing to a psychedelic experience? Are you open to that, or do you just not worry?
Well, they're clearly a psychedelic experience. The Book of Enoch is just fully psychedelic. I mean,
right.
At least a lot of it is. Yeah. It's a psychedelic version of the Bible in some ways. Well, it is really psychedelic. I think it's from the release of endogenous DMT. It comes about, or from drinking and having an ayahuasca-like experience.
That's what you think the origin of the Book of Enoch is?
It's a psychedelic experience. It might be a prophetic state that's brought about. It's a visionary state, clearly. Might have been a huge fever dream. I mean, he was really out there.
These things are happening in an alternative dimension.
Right. Yeah, I think they're happening in an alternative dimension. Like when you smoke DMT, you return to the same place each time. So there seems to be some reality, some DMT world that people enter into. In that same manner, the world of the Hebrew Bible early on, Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel, Noah, the Tower of Babel, all that took place. Mm-hmm. At some different level of reality, which gradually made its way into ours. And once it made its way into ours, there's the archaeological evidence, the first temple, second temple, and so on. So there is a transition between, our world and that world kind of merged. But in the beginning, it was an alternative dimension. It's the same God, I think, but different dimensions.
So, is this your own personal conclusion?
Yeah. Wow. Well, when I was on the show last time, you're asking if I believe those things took place, and my answer then was I take it as if it were true,
right?
And then I started to think, how I would do that, like in what world would that be true? It'd be a different world.
Right. I've always believed that they were trying to record something. I just didn't always trust that human beings were completely honest with their recollection of events. So that there's something that they were trying to write down. But was it really coming from God? Are these accurate events? What exactly happened with Noah and the ark? Like, what really happened?
Well, 3 stories. 3 levels. Mm-hmm. 2 of each.
Yeah, but like, how's he feeding them? Animals eat other animals. The whole thing's nuts. You would need a lot more rabbits. You need so many animals to keep just the lions alive.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. How's he getting them all from all over the world into his stupid boat?
Yeah.
There's so many things that are wrong. What do you think was going on with that story? Like, what is the origin of the story of Noah and his ark and his family and all the animals on the boat?
Yeah. Well, I think it was taking place in that alternate universe. It may have taken place on the planet. I don't know. I'm, looking at, why we don't have any clear archaeological history story, what about what happened during the time of Noah, if there was a time of Noah. It's useful because Noah came from Adam and Eve, and he and Noah and his family were the only survivors of the flood. The first thing Noah did, got drunk after the flood.
The first thing.
The first thing he did, he planted a vineyard, grapevine, drank, got drunk. He exposed himself in the tent. One of his grandkids reported it and made a laughingstock of him.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no. Poor Noah. He got canceled? Noah got canceled?
Yeah. Took off his clothes.
Really?
Drunk.
Wasn't he like 600 years old, too?
He has first child at 600, I think.
That seems
right?
real.
Well, he may have lived six. A lot of people wonder, why did people live, in the Bible anyway?
Right.
How did people live 900 years? Well, they did.
Right. But that's also why people question what the origin of the story is. That's why. Can you hear things like that? You're like, wait a minute, how old was he? 600 years old. Come on, man.
His first child.
This is just a regular dude.
Yeah.
His first kid when he was 600.
The last one he was 830 or so.
That seems logical.
Yeah.
But maybe.
Why are you laughing?
Maybe.
Really, it could
Listen,
be true. Why not?
If people lived normally to be 600, would that be any weirder than living to be 100? No. Like, what if something happened? What if something happened in our lifespan just went...
Yeah. Well, the final species of man lived 35,000 years.
Jeez Louise. That's a long time to be in a bad relationship. Imagine 35,000 years of getting yelled at.
Well, they... that would be bad. But
I mean, I'm saying 35,000 years would be awesome if you have great friends and your life is together. But can you imagine 35,000 years of fuck this place? That would get tired.
Well, the point that those people tried to attain when they lived 35,000 years was this group telepathy around the whole planet.
Neuralink.
Right.
Yeah.
That was their goal.